American Flight 238, The Silent Sky. Plot summary. American Flight 238, a routine commercial flight from New York to Los Angeles, encounters an unexpected and unexplained event in the middle of its journey. The plane, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, carries a diverse group of passengers, including a famous musician, a retired military officer, a young tech entrepreneur, and a family on vacation. The flight takes off on time, but just after crossing the Midwest, something strange happens. The pilots receive an odd transmission, a signal they can't trace, and soon, the plane experiences a sudden and powerful turbulence. Then, everything goes silent. The passengers' phones lose signal, and the aircraft's instruments begin to malfunction. The flight crew works frantically to understand what's happening, but even their communication systems seem to fade away. It's as if the world outside the plane has ceased to exist. As the hours pass, Flight 238 begins to experience strange occurrences. Time appears to be moving differently. Some passengers report seeing distant lands they don't recognize, while others hear faint, unexplainable noises coming from the cabin. The twist. The plane has unknowingly slipped through a tear in the fabric of space and time. It has entered an alternate dimension, a parallel world where technology has advanced differently, and the environment is eerily different from the known Earth. In this dimension, the flight crew must navigate an unsettling new reality, trying to communicate with the outside world and get back to their own universe. Along the way, they face strange phenomena, from altered weather patterns to inexplicable glitches in time. The passengers, who had been strangers to one another at the beginning, must come together to solve the mystery of their situation, unlocking hidden strengths within themselves and forming bonds that will guide them through the perilous journey ahead. American Flight 238, The Silent Sky. Setting and introduction. The story opens on a rainy evening at New York's JFK Airport. American Flight 238, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, is ready to take off on its routine route to Los Angeles. The plane is at full capacity, carrying a group of diverse passengers. We meet a few key figures: a famous musician on tour, a retired Air Force colonel with a mysterious past, a young tech entrepreneur on the brink of a major deal, and a family of 4 on a vacation. Each passenger has their own worries, hopes, and ambitions, little knowing that their lives are about to change forever. As the flight takes off and rises above the cloud-covered skyline of New York, everything seems ordinary. The seatbelt signs flicker off, passengers settle in, and the crew begins service. But somewhere over the Midwest, just as they pass through Denver's airspace, things start to go wrong. The first sign: a signal from nowhere. An unexpected transmission catches the pilot's attention, a voice crackling over the radio. The signal is weak, but they can make out a faint message that sounds like a warning. The words are barely audible, distorted by static: do not, lose course, danger, alternate path. The pilot and co-pilot exchange confused glances. They're experienced enough to know that this isn't standard communication, but they have no way to respond. As they try to contact air traffic control to report the interference, their communication equipment begins to flicker and eventually cuts out completely. A sudden shift in reality. Without warning, the plane experiences violent turbulence, unlike anything the pilots have ever encountered. It feels as if the entire sky has shifted. The passengers are jolted awake, oxygen masks drop, and a sense of panic grips the cabin. After a few harrowing moments, the turbulence stops. The pilots try to regain control but realize something is wrong. Outside the windows, the familiar blue sky is gone, replaced by swirling dark clouds. The compass spins erratically, and the plane's altimeter reads impossible numbers. When they glance at the clock, they notice the time has stopped. It's frozen at the exact moment they received the mysterious message. It's as though they've slipped out of normal time. The silent sky, a world outside time. The passengers, terrified but curious, begin to notice eerie phenomena. Phones lose all connectivity, screens flicker and show static, and no GPS signal is available. As some look out the window, they realize the clouds are unlike anything they've ever seen, almost metallic and unearthly in color, with strange flashes of light moving through them. The retired colonel, noticing details others don't, recognizes patterns in the lightning. He believes they're near an electromagnetic field of unknown origin and suspects this could be the gateway to a different dimension or plane of existence. The sky outside is hauntingly silent, with not even a trace of distant air traffic or satellites in sight. The stars look unfamiliar, with constellations out of place, almost as if they're in another part of the universe or another universe entirely. A mystery deepens strange sights and sounds. Over time, strange phenomena intensify within the cabin. Some passengers report seeing shadows or ghostly figures at the edge of their vision, only to disappear when they look directly. Others hear faint whispers echoing through the fuselage as though the plane itself is alive and breathing. The young tech entrepreneur tries to use his tablet to calculate their location, only to find strange coordinates that make no sense. They suggest they're somewhere completely off the map. Meanwhile, the plane's captain and co-pilot realize that the fuel consumption has slowed dramatically, yet they are unable to make sense of any of their instruments. They gather the passengers to explain the situation, sharing everything they know. This transparency helps to calm the crowd, although fear and confusion are still thick in the air. New realities and personal transformations. As hours stretch into what seems like an eternity, the passengers begin to share their stories, confide in one another, and reveal hidden sides of themselves. They form unlikely alliances and friendships, realizing they must rely on each other to survive. The musician finds himself performing for the passengers, using his music to bring hope. The family bonds more closely, and the tech entrepreneur reveals his fears about losing control, a vulnerability he has never shown before. The retired colonel, haunted by his past, becomes a reluctant leader, drawing on his military experience to keep morale high. Together, they face the psychological toll of their predicament, navigating their doubts and struggles. A glimpse of another world. The plane eventually descends into a mysterious, uncharted landscape below. What they see from above is both beautiful and terrifying: jagged, otherworldly mountains, bioluminescent forests, and vast, glowing rivers that wind through unfamiliar terrain. The light here seems to come from multiple suns, some small, others large, casting strange colors across the land. The alien beauty transfixes the crew and passengers, a reminder of how far they are from home. A race against time and an ominous decision. As the crew continues searching for a way back, they receive another transmission, one that sounds much clearer. It's a woman's voice, calm and collected, advising them to find a point of light in the sky. She tells them this is their exit, but that they must reach it before it's too late. The captain, unsure whether to trust the voice, shares it with the passengers. Together, they must decide if they should follow the voice's instructions and search for the light in the sky, risking everything on what might be their only chance of escape. The climax: a leap into the unknown. The plane eventually finds a point of intense light shimmering through the clouds, as the voice described. In a last-ditch effort, the pilots steer the aircraft toward it. The engines roar as they make the daring approach. As they near the light, the turbulence returns, more violent than before. The passengers cling to one another, uncertain if they'll survive. Just as they break through the light, there's a flash bright enough to momentarily blind them. The plane shudders, the world spins, and everything goes dark. The resolution return to reality? When they regain consciousness, the passengers find themselves over a familiar landscape. They are near Los Angeles, with the city lights twinkling below. The plane's instruments return to normal, the fuel gauge behaves as expected, and they receive a transmission from LAX Tower asking them to identify themselves. But something is different. Upon landing, they realize that they have been gone for only minutes in their world, yet for them, it felt like days. No one on the ground has noticed any anomaly to them. Flight 238's journey was routine. But for those on board, nothing will ever be the same. Each passenger disembarks, carrying a piece of the experience with them. They go back to their lives, but their connection remains, bound by the memory of the silent sky and the unknown world they crossed. And as they try to make sense of it all, each of them wonders, did they ever really return, or are they still somewhere between worlds?